Last time we talked about keys, and now we will talk about pitches. But first we need to understand what's going on here. So what we want to do is that we want a list of notes from the F sharp major scale. We have here the F sharp major scale that we created using the major scale class. Now we are going to get the pitches from this major scale object, and now we are going to use the pitches of this major scale object to create notes. And we use this structure here that is called list comprehension. I talk about list comprehension in this video called Python List Comprehension tutorial. It is part of the basic ear training application in Python playlist, and you find the link to this playlist and this video in the description of this tutorial. As we can see here, to understand list comprehension, we also need to understand these two keywords, the for loop and this in keyword. And I also discuss, so we have here an in keyword tutorial, a for loops tutorial, and a tutorial for Python lists. So if you're not familiar with Python lists, first you take a look at this tutorial about lists, then about the for loop, about the keyword in, and then about the list comprehension, and you will understand this structure here. Up here we have this object that we created using this major scale, and we've seen before that objects, they have attributes and methods. So if we take a look here at the F sharp major, we have something called pitches, and when we run this we get a list of pitches. So the major scale inherits from the concrete scale. There are some read-only properties in this concrete scale, and one are the pitches, and get a default pitch list from this scale, and this is what we have here. So now we have a list of pitches. So let's understand what is a pitch. The definition of pitch in music, we can take a look here at the Britannica Encyclopedia. And pitch in music, position of a single sound in the complete range of sound. Sounds are higher or lower in pitch according to the frequency of vibration of the sound waves producing them. So for example, a higher frequency of 180 Hz is perceived as a high pitch, and a low frequency of 55 Hz is perceived as a low pitch. It's interesting to know the difference between notes and pitches. Here at the Fundamentals of Music Processing by Professor Meinl Müller, there are some definitions about notes and pitches, and he says that in music the term note is often used in a rather loose way and may refer to both a musical symbol when talking about some score representations, as well as pitched sound when talking about audio representations. When thought of a musical symbol, each note has several attributes that determine the relative duration and pitch of a sound to be performed by a musician. The notion of pitch is not strict and refers to a perceptual property that allows a listener to order a sound on a frequency-related scale. So, for example, playing a note on an instrument results in a more or less periodic sound of a certain fundamental frequency, and this frequency is closely related to what is meant by the pitch of a note. The term pitch allows us to order pitched sounds from lower to higher, similar to the keys of a piano keyboard ordered from left to right. Here we also have some definitions of pitch. That Hello Music Theory saying that pitch is one of the most fundamental words in all of music. Everything that deals with melody and harmony, scales and chords starts with pitch. but it's also sometimes misunderstood, and often we can think of as pitch in different ways to its actual meaning. Pitch is how the human ear hears and understands a frequency. They give here one example of what actually happens when you play a note of an instrument. So whether if you pluck a piano key or you strum a guitar string or you blow into a saxophone, that instruments will produce a sound wave. And this sound wave are vibrations of air molecules that goes back and forth, creating a wave of pressure that travels from the instrument until it reaches our ears. And the main property of this sound wave is its frequency, which is just a word for how fast the cycle of the wave is. And then pitch is this notion of how human ears understands that frequency. When we go here to the Music 21 documentation, we find this music21.pitch. There are classes for representing and manipulating pitches, pitch space, and accidentals. Each note, we will see later, we are using these pitches to get notes, and we'll talk about notes in the next tutorial. But each note object has a pitch object embedded in it. So the pitch is a class, and there are many ways how we can construct this class. And this class is a fundamental object that represents a single pitch. Pitch is a Python module that contains classes for representing pitches. So a pitch is a class. It's a fundamental object that represents a single pitch. Pitch objects are most often created by passing in a note name with an optional accidental and an optional octave number. In our case, we are getting the pitches directly from the scale that we created before, and we have the pitches of the F sharp major scale. And we could, for example, take the first pitch of this list, so this pitch F sharp in the octave number 4, and we could get, for example, the name of this pitch, which is F sharp. We have different types of names, so the full name is F sharp in octave 4, and many other attributes that are described here. And we have many other methods that we could use. And we have full name, frequency, get harmonic, name, transpose, and we will be using some of them later on. So now we discussed list comprehension in different tutorials, and we discussed pitches. In our next tutorial, we are going to talk about note. We are using a pitch to construct a note.